welcome back to another episode with Fight Night Picks. As always, we're brought to you by SimBody. Vertiball is now SimBody. If you head on over to their website, simbody.com, you're going to get all the great products that you know and love, including the SimBody Vertiroller and the Vertiball that you have seen most likely here in studio. Look at that. Place it, lock it, attach it, Vertiball, all sorts of great stuff over there if you want to roll out those old tired muscles and you don't want to go with that old lacrosse ball. They're also coming out with that very new product that you can see right in front of you. And if I head on over to my cart, look at that. I've already got a Vertiball over there. Little bit of a deal right there. And if you hit the try for 60 days risk-free, use the promo code FNP, you're going to get 20% off your order with that code FNP at simbody.com. You're really, really helping out another local company here in New Brunswick, Canada. Can't wait for it. The new name, SimBody at simbody.com. And as we always say, let's get into it.
A last look at the big card. Be sure to head into the chat and have your say. Let's get into it and join in Fight Night Picks Kicks.
Oh boy, and just like that, we're back, we're live, and we're getting set to see if Shavkat Rakhmonov can shock the world, but not really take on Neil Magny in that co-main event. I know everybody's excited about that one. As always, one half your host duo, Craig Allen, Twitter and Instagram, at Craig Allen FNP. I've been having fun over there lately. A lot of fun, not so much on Instagram, but on Twitter, but Matt Allen, FNP, respective socials. Very, very easy. I want to say a good Saturday hello to Joe, Prince Vegeta's son, Craig Hart, Chad's out there, Billy Dwyer, the crew hanging out over in that chat. And Matt, as Kicks goes, the ball starts rolling, that chat starts filling up. Tossing us a like would certainly be appreciated as my mind goes ahead of my mouth because I am so damn excited about this card. Tsarukyan versus Gamrot. I mean, this is one of those ones, you look at it on Fight Matrix, Matt. Sometimes I just put the glasses up, the Clark Kent glasses, and I go, okay, what are these folks rating these cards at? They have Tsarukyan Gamrot as a 2 out of 5. They have next weekend's pay-per-view as a 4.5 out of 5 star. I know I'm already excited about that one. But this weekend's a hell of a card. This is one of my favorite Fight Night cards that we've seen in a very long time.
That's why I don't put any stock into what Fight Matrix rates these cards, because this really is a great Fight Night card, from the top all the way to the bottom. I know how excited we've both been for this main event, because these are two fighters who deserve a bigger spotlight. Really, that deserves the co-main event and the main event. They both deserve the spotlight, because for Shavkat Rakhmonov, we all know how talented he is. He just hasn't really had the chance to prove that, hey, I am one of these top guys in the welterweight division. And for Tsarukyan and Gamrot, again, we all know how talented they both are. They just need more quality wins on their resume. This is the first step in that direction. And I know Armin's already been talking about, like, hey, if I beat Gamrot this weekend, I want, like, a top 5 opponent next. So he's going to have to look pretty good if he wants to warrant that his next time out.
Can you imagine Armin, Tsarukyan, Mateusz Gamrot next fight? Justin Gaethje, here you go. It's like a lamb to the slaughter, possibly, but a big-time card nonetheless. And I mean, Matt, we always throw it on over to the Fight of the Night screen on QMK. We've already kind of talked about these two. Neil Magny, Shavkat Rakhmonov, you have an opportunity there. And in the main event, Armin Tsarukyan, Mateusz Gamrot. I mean, how could you not go with that? Again, I said at the start of the week, you've got Mario Bautista, Brian Kelleher. That's a hell of a fight. Durden Bays, there's all sorts of people on every which side of that fight. But Matt, this one right here, like, we hate to cherry pick off main events. Last weekend's main event was a Fight of the Night between Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett, but this one is a very good one. I mean, we've got Frenzy YT saying, who do y'all have in that fight? Malone Hart, just an MVP of Kicks, saying, I appreciate what y'all do. Look forward to Kicks every Saturday. Donnie Dimes is out there on Twitter just before the show saying he was going to catch QMK for the first time. Phoenix is out there. Clay saying Ola, but Malone Hart already hitting up that super chat. Matt, let's try and add a little bit of spice to this fight. Armin Tsarukyan, Mateusz Gamrot. Both guys looked amazing on the scale. Both guys and everybody on this card fit and ready. Nobody missed weight. You love to see it, although Josh Parisian wanted to tip the scales 265.5.
Pretty big.
But when we're looking at this fight, Matt, in this main event, I understand Gamrot, a little bit older, 6 years older, taller, longer, and he has that championship pedigree from KSW in 2 different weight classes. Armin Tsarukyan's never fought a 5-round main event type fight. This is his first opportunity. Obviously, cardio, both guys have pretty good cardio, but what do you pick out in this fight most of all that people should maybe watch out for when these two guys fight?
What I love most about this matchup is that, okay, normally when you get a main event at the UFC level, we kind of know everything there is to know about both of the fighters by the time they make it to that level. They've had, 10, 11, 12 UFC fights up until that point. Mateusz Gamrot, even though he is a little bit older, I still feel like is an evolving mixed martial artist. He's getting better every single time we see him out there. And Tsarukyan, of course, keeps on improving every single performance. So I'm curious to see what new elements both guys have added to their games, because for Gamrot, I do think he's the slightly more well-rounded guy out of the two. I think he's a little bit better in the striking, but for Tsarukyan, we all know how good his grappling is. If he can improve his striking, he'll be almost impossible to beat.
Donald E. Guys hitting up that super chat. Donald E. Guys, Malone Hart, just trying to win out for the MVP of the question mark kick, saying, I'm jacked up, my brothers, let's get the MF into it. So yeah, let's get the MF into it, Matt. As people know with Fight Night Picks question mark kicks, we always start off with a little bit, the fight in the night screen, the first fight that's on the card. We go to the bottom, all the way up to the top. If you missed anything, we get to stack the deck once more. QMK Parlay taking a rest this weekend because I'm so hurt that my Calvin Cater wasn't on the winning end against Josh Emmett, and I had Adrian Yanez to get his win over Tony Kelly, and boy, did he ever. Oh my, the memes. So Matt, when it does come to this weekend's card, it should be a good one. Todd's over there, Lionheart 1906, Kyle Hall, Blind Dog, Lucas A, Ben, Donnie Dimes, what's up, boys? Let's do this. Happy Saturday. And Kyle Hall saying, chat, what are the locks? There's never locks in MMA. Matt, Vanessa Demopoulos is taking on Jinh Frey. And we said it at the start of the week that Jinh Frey, is she justified as big of a favorite as she is? Because she's more than a 2-1 favorite. And in all 4 of her UFC fights,
did the line shift at all this week? Sorry to interrupt you, Craig. I didn't look at the odds before we get on. Normally I do take a peek just to make sure, but she remained. I'm very surprised to see that. Sorry. So
Jinh Frey opened a -300. When we taped our video, she's a -275. I guess she is a -225. Vanessa Demopoulos right now, +186. And again, Frey used to be the atomweight champ over with Invicta. She challenged over with Ryzen against a really, really tricky fighter in Ayaka Hamasaki. But Matt, when we do look at this one, Frey's filled out for this weight division. I mean, you see her on the scales, you see her on her Instagram. She posted a side-by-side picture here in the last week saying, hey, this is what I used to look like at atomweight. This is what I look like at strawweight. And to me, I went, they look the damn same. I mean, yeah.
She's bodied up, though.
One's way more lean than the other one. But for Vanessa Demopoulos, look great on the scale. Last one on that video. VT saying Demop is a live underdog. Yeah. Because again, I talked about this at the start of the week, but I want to drop these numbers because I think it is very important. You look at Jinh Frey in her fights in the UFC, and I want to make sure I get it right. Where is it? Not even close. Like, not even close. Every time she's been an underdog, she's 2-2 in the UFC. She's lost to Kay Hansen. She's beaten Ashley Yoder. It's been a roller coaster ride. Can she beat Vanessa Demopoulos? What do you say?
It really comes down to experience, because for Vanessa Demopoulos, she's been in there with some good fighters, but I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of world-class fighters, whereas for Jinh Frey, like you said, that's a former world champion we're talking about, and I do like what you bring up about her kind of fitting into this weight class a little bit better now than when she first came over to the UFC. It always reminds me of when Max Holloway moved up to fight Dustin Poirier at 155. Yes, Poirier used to fight at 145, but he had been a lightweight for years up until that point. He let his body fill out, whereas Holloway, it was just kind of a one-off, right? He just wasn't cutting those extra 10 pounds, so you could tell that physically there was a difference in their size come fight night, and I know their skill level is a little bit higher, I think it's fair to say, than this one, but I do think that that's a good parallel to draw, just because it does take a fighter a little bit of time to really let their body adjust to a new weight class, and I do think with Frey, she has allowed herself to adjust a little bit better than when she first came over. I know for me, I wasn't big on Jinh Frey at this weight class, especially when she did come over to the UFC, because it was quite obvious. She was so much smaller than everybody else she was fighting that you were a little concerned about how she was going to match up physically with a lot of her opponents, but Demopoulos herself isn't the biggest of strawweights out there, so I do think Jinh Frey, with her experience, can get the win tonight.
So you look at the comments section, Matt, Prince Vegeta-san really bringing up that reach. It's only good if you can use it. It's only good if you understand how to use it. For Jinh Frey, she actually understands how to use her reach when she's using her boxing. It's a good jab. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Pump the jab out there. Go to the body every now and again. not a huge kicker is Jinh Frey. Vanessa Demopoulos is like a car crash of a striker. It's very much single shots, nice kicks, things that look good when you just take single screenshots of them, but we have to see it flowing and in order. But again, I throw up the big red flag. Jinh Frey in her 4 UFC fights against Kay Hansen, plus 175 underdog. She loses. She's a plus 110 against Loma Lookboonmee, loses. Plus 170 underdog against DePaula, wins. Plus 135 against Ashley Yoder, wins. And now she's more than a 2-1 favorite in this matchup. So it really is tricky if you do like to go with Jinh Frey. 53% of the fans at Fight Night Picks have Frey to get the win over Demopoulos on her Instagram. That's at Fight Night Picks. Matt, I brought in a prop. I bought the giant mega bag of popcorn from Cineplex, and I have a reason for it. Just hang out, popping popcorn with this big sucker.
Did your wife leave for the weekend?
Just watch the fight. No, we enjoyed it. We watched Netflix last night.
I was like, wow,
popcorn.
Craig's looking after himself.
Did you know this was here?
I didn't. I had no idea that existed.
The Mighty Pop, and I've eaten about half of it. Wow. And I think she had one small cupful. But the point is, Matt, I do have Jinh Frey here. Like the
Don't put money on this fight, though, guys.
No, like the 1-2. I like grappling out of both of them. Vanessa Demopoulos is one of those fighters, kind of like Yulia Stoliarenko is coming up next weekend, because I just did the tape study on that one. The fact that they have those X factors on the ground, but you have to get into some of those awkward set positions for them. So I'm going to take Frey here with the fact that she's a little bit steadier on the feet, and I know what I'm going to get. Vanessa Demopoulos, tricky fighter, but I've got Frey.
So do I. Again, no confidence in the pick, though.
All right, Matt. No confidence in his pick, and, it's a tricky one. Brian Kelleher taking on Mario Bautista. Matt, this is one of my favorite fights coming up on the weekend. Malone Hart hitting up another super chat. Proud of Craig for saying his wife still Netflix and chill. 7 years strong. Netflix and chill. You still Netflix and chill. But when it does come to this fight, Malone Hart, I appreciate you. And Dan saying Craig doing the patty workout. Dan, I mean, my God, have you seen me? I'd have to eat those bags of popcorn. I'd have to eat 2 or 3 a day before I hit that Patty Pimblett weight. But when it comes to this fight, Matt, Mario Bautista, does the guy like a flying knee?
Oh, once or twice.
You think so? So he's taking on Brian Kelleher, a guy who goes to Hook City, and that's all he uses. But he does have a very tidy guillotine. When we break this fight down stylistically, 1v1, when you stack up all of their skills, Brian Kelleher is pretty damn high on that list when it comes to, he has all of these things. He can bring them all together. The losses are against more upper echelon guys. For Mario Bautista, he just really hasn't had his opportunity to prove it against those top guys. He lost to a tricky guy in Corey Sandhagen in his debut. Ball Juice of Zeus. Tottenham salutes you. Listen, when we come out of this transfer window, I can't wait till they're going guns blazing. I mean, they're going to be a fun team. Former Tottenham Hotspur, Matt, Gareth Bale going to MLS today. So there it is for Ball Juice of Zeus. But Matt, when it comes down to this one, he loses to Sandhagen. He has that odd loss against old Trevin. You can never figure him out. But when it comes down to this fight, Matt, what do you think?
The thing about Mario Bautista is he's a killer be killed fighter, and I think everybody who likes MMA likes fighters like that. Like, Jimmy Manuwa became a fairly famous fighter just by being a killer be killed fighter. And for Bautista, sometimes his aggressiveness does get him caught against that upper echelon kind of fighter, and even against Trevin Jones, not that he's that kind of a talent, but we all understand, if you get hit clean by the type of fighter that Trevin Jones is, you're probably going to go to sleep like Mario Bautista ended up doing in that fight. I just don't think Brian Kelleher at 35 years of age has that same level of finishability in his own fights. I know we like him for the guillotine. We like him for his above average grappling. He's a good boxer. Like, Brian Kelleher doesn't have any glaring holes in his game. It's just at 35 years of age, I don't know if he has the explosiveness to really hurt Mario Bautista on the feet. And I do think that if Bautista can just stick to a game plan that is, be aggressive, keep your hands high. Please keep your hands high, Mario. And just kind of stalk Brian Kelleher down. I do think his takedown defense is good enough to defend those kind of long-distance takedowns that Brian Kelleher can sometimes get himself into. And if he can just contest this fight on the feet, I do like Mario Bautista quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it for Mr. Brian Kelleher, you go over to the IGs, he got married in the last couple of weeks.
Good for you, Brian.
That's cool stuff. When I do look at this one, though, for Mario Bautista, I mean, he had a fight of the night against Jin Susan, a guy who had 2 fight of the nights, and they said, we don't need you anymore. He did have a performance of the night with a flying knee knockout over Miles Johns, but it's something that he just whips things out of nowhere when it comes to the flying knee, when it comes to his overhand right. Mario Bautista has the speed, he has the volume, trains at the MMA lab with the Benson Hendersons of the world. Now, if I'm not mistaken, is it USA versus Brazil today, Benson Henderson versus Damian Maia, or am I way off base? It's somebody else taking on Damian Maia in grappling. It's on right now. So somebody can fill us in on that one. I'm pretty sure that is what it is. And I should be watching it, but there's Aries FC, there was PFL yesterday, there's Bellator yesterday too. Everything's all over the place. But Brian Kelleher is the underdog in the spot, open to plus 120, plus 151. Mario Bautista, open minus 140, minus 180. And if we have a look at Fight Night picks for this one, Phoenix saying, yeah, Benson versus Damian is right now. An MMA Ninja's hanging out. Sup. 65% of the fans at Fight Night picks going with Bautista. So the fans have Bautista, the odds have Bautista. I have Bautista at the start of the week. You still have him now?
Oh, 100%.
So no big switch ups there. Lord Nikon saying Bautista's going to piece Kelleher up with his speed. And Clay saying, I have a feeling this one won't go to the distance. Me too. I think it's going to be a heck of a fight. And Dan saying, did you see Pettis' rib break in that twister? I didn't, but yeah, he lost his fight. Bruno Capelozza lost his fight.
Anthony Pettis has lost via body triangle twice in his career. I can't even name another guy who's been submitted by it one time.
I don't know.
And he's like a good grappler, too. He submitted Chaels Oliveira, but it's just like that one technique. I don't know what it is. If he just feels really uncomfortable, like a Chael Sonnen in a triangle. Like, it's weird that one technique has been the Achilles heel for Anthony Pettis on the ground.
Anthony Pettis, there's a poster of him in the corner of this room where he signed over names, and you can't even see it. Anthony Pettis, what a guy. Matt, when it comes to this fight with JP Bays, Cody Durden, I want to hear from the people in the comments section on this one, because out of all of our videos this week, this is the fight that got the most attention from the fans. And maybe it has a little bit to do with, I'm going to knock Kyle Dawkins out with a knee, Roman Dolidze.
Got a hero's welcome at some soccer game. Oh my goodness.
Maybe it has to do with Cody Durden and what he said after his fight, his last time out against Shayilan. I don't know what it has to do with, but the fans, Matt, on this one at Fight Night picks 54% Durden, 46% JP Bays. Chris is saying this is the Bays get back fight. And that's what I've seen a lot of people say. For JP Bays, 2 fights in the UFC, he's been dropped 7 times in 2 fights. 7 times. And I saw somebody say, yeah, but it's been against the best of the best. I'll concede. Montel Jackson?
Still a lot of times to get dropped.
If Montel Jackson fought more, who the hell knows? If Bruno Silva fought more, I'd be entertained, but I don't know. Like, I'm not quite convinced. I like him.
The wins and the losses would both come, though.
It is weird, but Matt, when it does come to this fight, though, like, I look at JP Bays, slicker on the feet, bar none. Striking defense goes out the window for striking offense. When it comes to his wrestling, that's in his back pocket. Worked for him outside of the UFC. Hasn't worked for him in the UFC. And for Cody Durden, he throws the kitchen sink at you till he gets tired, and then he just tries to do the same thing, and it's less effective usually.
The thing that I really hate is that when you get these kind of top-tier prospects, and not that JP was like a Paddy Pimblett or like an Alex Pereira, but still, I would say he had more than average hype coming over to the UFC. He was known for his grappling before he came over, though. It was his wrestling, it was his pace. I hate it when guys specialize in something outside the UFC and then end up having next to no success with that once they come over to the UFC level. And I understand, he did have some situations with Montel Jackson where he looked good in the grappling. It's just, when you're known for that thing, and then I rarely see you have consistent levels of success with that one thing, I do get really concerned. And against a guy like Durden, who, again, could you out-grapple him for a 15-minute fight? Yes, of course you could. But there's going to be a 3, 4, 5-minute storm that you have to weather in that fight. And for Bays, we just don't know if he can take that kind of damage at this level. It is wild, and you're right. He's fought 2 pretty good fighters who are very offensive-minded, who can really hurt you if they land on you. But to get dropped 7 times in 2 fights at this weight division, it is extremely concerning. It's not like we're talking about a guy in middleweight or heavyweight, and it's like, okay, they get hit by huge athletes and they could go down. Like, you know, JP's fought some good guys, but again, the damage that he's taken has been like almost 10 fights worth in only 2, so I am really concerned about what version of him we're going to get in this fight. He's got to look better than he has his last 2 fights, though, if he expects to beat a guy like Durden, who, yes, the holes might be glaring, but he has some really good strengths, too. Like you said, when he is able to put combinations together, when he's able to pressure his opponent backwards, there's a lot you have to deal with his offense. I'm just going to be very curious to see if Bays can make it past that first round and start bringing it into the deep waters. How is Durden going to fight when he is tired? Because then maybe Bays could start putting together his takedowns, start looking really good with his own grappling. I just don't think he's going to be able to survive that big storm from Durden. And I know we're the guys all the time who it's, hey, you look for the guy who is the more skilled over the guy who's just going to have that one big push. But I like Durden in this fight.
Yeah, that's it. That's the worst part of it for me. Because for JP Bays, he can win the second round, he can win the third round. And it's not like Cody Durden's this big, wild finisher in the first round. He just throws a storm at you. And if you can withstand it, you can probably beat him. I mean, his last fight out, round 1, Durden. Round 2, Arichi Lang. Round 3, really close. Durden, I guess, forward pressure. Like, it is tough when you do look at it that way. And again, Montel Jackson beat JP Bays, knocking him down 4 times. 3 judges scored that contest, 30-27. If we have a look at the odds for this one, slight favorite, JP Bays open plus 125, minus 115. Cody Durden, minus 105, as it is right now. Like I said, it was 54% had Durden. So I'm going to take the underdog in Durden. But again, if Bays wins round 2, round 3, see how he withstands that storm in the first round. Cody Durden's a guy that loves to chain his wrestling together, but he throws so wild when it's on the feet. There's not a lot that's necessarily in combination. I would have thought in his last couple of fights where he's gone from ATT Atlanta to ATT proper down in Florida that he would have tightened it up a little bit. It's not all that different from what we had before, but I do like the somewhat consistency, I guess, out of Cody Durden in this one.
I know consistent is a word I'd use to describe either one of these guys. I also have Durden, though. Should be an interesting fight, because again, both guys need a win.
A lot of people throwing out the love for the Canadians, Matt. We got the Carlos Newton flag behind us. We have the glove of one, Cassius Clay Collard, who was not victorious his last time out with PFL. PFL! Wild stuff going on over there. Next fight, Raulian Paiva, Sergey Morozov, 424 tuning in right now. We got to get those likes up. They're still under 100. But Matt, the super chat was nuts. Malone Hart, Donald E. guys. Malone Hart again. Juice Balls of Zeus. I never forget. Just like an elephant. Locked steel trap up there in the brain. But when it comes to this fight, Matt, Raulian Paiva looks great on the scales at 135. Sergey Morozov looks like a guy at 135.
Like a guy who doesn't walk around at 135 pounds.
There's 2 guys that weighed in this weekend that I went, oh, geez, I don't know about that. Sergey Morozov's one, TJ Brown's another. Like TJ Brown's body was cashed in checks. TJ Brown's face was not.
The face, the first place you lose weight in, so I'm not concerned.
I know.
Body is way more concerned.
I didn't love it. But Matt, when it comes to this one, for Sergey Morozov, the downs have been down in the UFC against Umar Nurmagomedov, against D. Silva. The win was, I mean, that's a Sergey Morozov win right there. And for Raulian Paiva, when he's able to mix everything up, when he's able to strike from distance, when he's able to really kind of crunch down against some of the shorter guys, which is most guys that he was fighting at 125, at 135, and throw in combination really land with accuracy, because that's a big thing. When I watch a Paiva fight, he's really picking his shots and doing damage with those shots, but a good overhand right from him. Obviously, his last time out, I mean, listen, Sean O'Malley's going to beat guys. It's pretty hard to beat him. Only one has so far. When it comes to a fight like this, it's can Morozov mix it up early and often and keep his grappling going throughout, because if he decides I'm going to go balls to the wall, he's probably going to lose.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. For me, I think the real key to this fight comes down to how hard can Raulian Paiva make Sergey Morozov work, especially early on, because if Morozov's just able to get a takedown, just sort of stay on top, do his own ground and pound, threaten with a submission here or there, just try to be dominant with his own physicality, then I think he could honestly fight this fight on the feet or on the mat, use some clinch work, and just really use forward pressure as an effective tool to start winning rounds in this fight. But if Paiva can just be really defensively sound, make him work with his own offense, make him, if you dig underhooks, make him continue to try to chain wrestle, even though you have the more sturdy defensive position, just because it's going to waste a lot more energy from Morozov than it will from Paiva. And then I think Paiva can start to pick up some of that distance in the second and the third round, because for Morozov, he loves being aggressive, but at a certain point, you do have to pay that tab, and normally that payment comes in form of cardio. And I don't love the version of him that we always see in the third round. I don't think it's because he has bad cardio by any means. It's just when you work as hard as he does in most positions, it's going to be really hard to keep a consistent level of output throughout 3 rounds. So I really do think this fight comes down to how much can Paiva make Morozov work early, because I do think Morozov's going to win the first round, probably no matter what. I just think with his own combination of wrestling and striking, it's going to make Paiva at least question himself quite a bit with his own game plan. I think once round 2 and round 3 begin, Paiva can start to pick up some steam from that point on, but just the fact that I think Morozov's going to be the more offensive-minded fighter, and he's going to force Paiva to be the one who's going to be reacting a lot in this fight. That's why I do like Morozov, but this should be an incredible fight.
So, Oscar, over in that super chat, it is much appreciated. Chris saying, I love Rodriguez Chitty announcement. We were talking about that actually just before we started to tape. That's going to be a hell of a fight. A couple of guys that love to bang, unless, of course, Rodriguez decides to grapple, which he never does. Matt, the odds for this fight, Morozov open minus 110, so both guys are at par, minus 157 right now for Morozov, plus 132 for Paiva at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams. We have a look at your votes, 64% going with Morozov to the lesser amount that have Mr. Paiva. But yeah, when it comes to this one, I look at Paiva as a guy that's really trying to accentuate, to improve. I made a mistake at the start of the week. I said Paiva was working with Mohamed Makayev. It was actually Sergey Morozov that was working with him. A guy who is a triple threat when it really comes to MMA. Good in the clinch, good on the ground, good with the striking. At least he's flashy with his striking. But when it comes to this fight, Matt, Corey McGregor saying best channel ever, or overall.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Ever's a stretch. See what I did there? But when it does come to this fight, I like Morozov with the forward pressure. Obviously, Paiva's been able to kind of snuff some guys' advances so far in the UFC. I think Morozov's got another great guy in his ear with Zhalgas try and game plan for this one. So I do like Morozov, but this is a really hard fight. It's going to be a fun one.
Oh yeah, I'm as excited for this as any other fight in the card.
Matt, Shayilan Nuerdanbieke taking on TJ Brown. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke went from 20-7 after beating Sean Soriano to 37-10 because some wins materialized off of the regional scene in taking on TJ Brown, a guy who's been there, who's done that, and who's had some questionable fights inside the UFC's octagon. Looked great on Dana White's Contender Series, but he got that Contender Series curse that followed along with him, losing to Jordan Griffin in his debut by out-wrestling himself, getting stuck in a submission. He had the fight against Kai Kamaka, however you think of that one. For Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, maybe not the best debut, but he really did a good job taking on Sean Soriano, whose only skill is striking. And if you take him down, it's once, twice, 3 times a lady. Sean Soriano, see you later. So when it comes down to this fight, Matt, can Shayilan Nuerdanbieke hold on to that cardio edge that I am sure he has against TJ Brown? Because TJ Brown does tend to get tired as fights go on. Or can TJ Brown go out there, fight with a little bit of a pace, kind of like you saw Rodolfo Vieira do his last time out against Session Stoisfus that we'll talk about later, or like Carlos Ulberg did his last time out against Fabio Schrank. Can TJ Brown do that in this matchup? There's a lot of question marks in this one.
Yeah, I really do think. This is the way I look at this fight. TJ Brown has to push a really big rock up a hill that's only 2 meters high. He barely has to push this rock. Nuerdanbieke has to push a 10-pound medicine ball up Mount Everest to win. Nuerdanbieke has to roll a ball up Mount Everest to win this fight. Because for Shayilan, this is the thing. His cardio is only going to come into play in the end of the 3rd round. I really don't think wrestling for wrestling's sake is really going to do him that much effect early on in this fight. Because TJ is that much better as a pure grappler. At least in my belief he is. I think that if these two do start to find themselves in a lot of wrestling exchanges, just in a lot of scrambles, I think TJ Brown is going to be the one who ends up on top 9 times out of 10. And if he is the one ending up in the top position in a lot of these situations, he won't be getting as tired as this fight does continue. So for Brown, I do think cardio is going to come into play at a certain point, but the thing is, I think he's going to be able to build up enough of a lead early on in this fight. When I say a lead, I mean round 1 and 2. I do think his wrestling is going to look good for the first 2 rounds of this fight. In round 3, maybe Shayilan can start to come back with some of his own grappling. I just think it's going to be a little bit too late for him to really start being able to weaponize his own pace in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, when I do look at this one, and Donnie Dimes kind of echoing it up there, I looked at these two guys at weigh-in day. Shayilan looked great. TJ looked meh. I mean, his last fight was at 155, but it was on short notice against Charles Rosa, a guy who is billed as a grappler. But boy, oh boy, he struggles against pure grapplers. And he struggled in that matchup too. Kenny Williams, yeah, I mean, listen, the best part about it is when you listen to the commentary, my favorite one, couple of Louisiana boys chopping it up. They love to use that one about DC and RC. Chronicle MMA hitting up the super chat. We really do appreciate it. So Matt, we'll have a look at the odds for this matchup between Brown and Nuerdanbieke. Brown is the favorite, -211, open to -250. Shayilan +173. And if we have a look at Fight Night picks, for the total votes on Instagram, 63% going with TJ Brown. I think of him as a better striker, but he's very basic when it comes to it. He's going to throw the jab out there a lot. He doesn't react well to getting kicked. But again, Shayilan doesn't kick all that much. Finishing ability in the UFC hasn't necessarily been there. He's a guy that really does go for, I say submission over position, but he goes for finish over position when he's been on the regional scene. He's really going from half guard to full mount, jumping into full mount, neon belly type stuff that doesn't really look to work in the UFC, and I like TJ Brown to be able to get out of some of those bad positions, sweep off the bottom. So both of us going with TJ Brown in this matchup?
I 100%, not 100%. It's just Okay, how do both guys have success in their fights? Both guys like to grapple quite a bit. For Brown, yes, I would agree with you. He's the better guy in the feet. But again, these two are going to grapple at some point in this fight, whether it's round 1, 2, or 3. I just don't think Shayilan's going to have an answer for anything Brown can do on the mat.
So it is going to be a fun one. And as we move forward, Matt, we have Carlos Ulberg, Tyfon Nchukwi. Now, Matt, at the start of the week, split on the pick on this one. You had Carlos Ulberg, I had Tyfon Nchukwi. I thought, you know what? This is a sage pick. I'm going with an underdog in a close fight. This is fun. But the odds have shifted. And Tyfon Nchukwi is now the favorite in this matchup. So we'll have a look at the live odds over on Best Fight Odds, just to give us an idea. Tyfon Nchukwi open plus 120. When we made our video, he was a slight underdog, albeit plus 105, plus 107. Minus 135 for Tyfon Nchukwi. For Carlos Ulberg, plus 113. Matt, so many people were on our case about this fight because we didn't give Carlos Ulberg his flowers. I'm not just like so many people. So in this fight, both guys less than 10 fights of pro experience. We've had a mixed bag of results in the UFC. Ulberg looked good his last time out, paced himself, fought again. I don't want to reuse my word.
Not a good fighter though.
Fought with good volume his last time. He's a heck of a fighter.
Fabio Chiron?
No, Fabio Chiron is not. Carlos
That's
Ulberg.
what I mean.
But Fabio Chiron just did not show up to fight. He landed 13 strikes. 13 strikes in 15 minutes of, 15 minutes, you land a strike a minute. That's bad. That's really bad.
If Fabio Chiron fought BJ Penn outside of a Buffalo Wild Wings, I wouldn't know who to pick in that fight. Carlos Ulberg's a great striker, though.
Now, time out. I would take a guy whose nickname's the Water Buffalo outside of a Buffalo Wild Wings to beat BJPenn.com.
Just let the joke land sometimes.
Fair
Craig.
enough.
Here's the thing. For Carlos Ulberg, I think he's the much better long-distance striker in this fight. And honestly, I'm not going to make some hot take or anything. I think if Tyfon's going to have any success in this fight, he's going to need his offensive wrestling. And if either one of these guys shoot for a takedown, it will be Tyfon because he has shown that wrinkle before in some of his fights. Whereas Ulberg, he's almost too upright to shoot for his own takedowns. It's a very odd style that he has. It's like he's playing a drop coverage automatically with his defense in the pick and roll. So there's no way he can get out to the perimeter because he's so set in his own ways that I don't know if he's ever going to just kind of develop that part of his game. I do think offensively in the clinch he's really good. He has really nice elbows, has good knees up the middle, but again, that's a position that Tyfon could probably take advantage of with some of his own offensive wrestling, and I know that's a weird thing to keep on going back to for a guy who is built as a pure striker. He is a pure striker. I just think on the feet, Ulberg is a different level, and unless you do get him very, very tired before you start to have your own success in striking, you kind of see what happens. Like, technique for technique, unless you're an Alex Pereira or an Israel Adesanya, you're going to have a really hard time with this guy on the feet. The difference between him and those other fighters is they can pace themselves, and also they're pretty good defensively, whereas Carlos Ulberg does tend to eat some big shots on the feet, and I'm really curious to see if that's ever something he can fix in his game, because we see this a lot. Boxers and kickboxers, what are they used to? They have massive pillows on their hands at all times, so you can shell up, you can defend yourself a lot easier just with a high shell, whereas in MMA, smaller gloves, there's less room for error. I'm very curious to see if Ulberg will ever be able to just start moving his head a little bit better, just having better footwork in general. I think this is a good fight for both guys, just as a developmental fight, so we have a better idea as to who they could go in there next with, but I still like Ulberg in this fight, but it should be a great one.
Yeah, and I've got Tyfon Nchukwi in this one, and again, I see it, Donnie saying no idea why they didn't put him in the big octagon next weekend on an Adesanya card. It's probably because you don't want the nerves and the jitters of fighting with your buddy, who's the champ.
Jacob Malkoon's like, Robert, where are you?
Yeah, Jacob Malkoon, a guy. But when it does come down to this one, Matt, when you look at Carlos Ulberg, and we're striking from distance, obviously we talked about it, kickboxing titles, so on and so forth, how does it really equate when it does come to MMA? You watch Carlos Ulberg that first round against Kenny Nchukwi, this is a man possessed. This is a man on fire. He's throwing wicked combinations. He's going left, right hook, down to the body, finish it with a high kick, and from either stance, his combinations are so good. And when it's a distance, Carlos Ulberg mops the floor with the majority of the 205ers when it comes to just the striking. But to me, when you mix in the fact that Tyfon Nchukwi, like you said, he's built as a striker, WKA national champion, world champion. It comes to his kickboxing. He has Muay Thai pro experience. He's obviously been a pro at MMA for a while. You go and look at some of his wins, and when it gets grimy, when this guy's in there, in the pocket, in tight, Tyfon Nchukwi takes over. His fight against William Knight, his fights in the UFC, he's been beaten by range at times, but he's also been beaten by guys that wrestle him, take him down, and hold him down. I like Nchukwi for everything that he brings in, and you said it. I mean, Ulberg's good in clinch position, so's Nchukwi with his uppercuts, with the ability to hang on and hold on. So again, Tyfon, slight favorite now, minus 135. So if you did like Ulberg at the start of the week, you have a good opportunity. 64% of the fans at Fight Night Picks going with Ulberg, 36% going with Nchukwi. But again, we're split on the pick. Oscar saying, guys, which 3 fighters would you parlay? Not on this channel, sorry. So sorry. But Matt, when we're looking at the pick here, we're still split on this one.
Yeah, I like Ulberg, but again, this should be a phenomenal fight. This isn't a fight that's going to get either guy in a title shot anytime soon, but it'll be a fun one to watch.
Grayson Coleman, guys, have you ever considered live streaming the fights? Grayson Coleman, I hope you don't mean like just like that guy with the PS3 controller.
Yeah, he's pretending he's playing UFC 4.
But you're going to like it because next weekend, UFC 276, we'll have the Fight Night Pick Sidekick. We're live for the entire main card. We're hanging out. We're having the conversation with you. And then we also have question mark kicks as well. So Matt, we'll move on to the next one. Chris Curtis, Rodolfo Vieira. Now, it was pointed out to me by an Instagram fan on the Instagrams, the fact that both these guys are coming off injury. We touched on the fact that Rodolfo Vieira had that Instagram post. He had to get the brain scans to make sure the blood vessels in his brain were still good. He was forced out of a fight earlier on this year due to that. And now he's been getting back into training, getting back ready for a fight at Fusion XL. Chris Curtis broke his wrist. I didn't focus on that. I didn't really hear about it. He was supposed to fight, who was it, Dricus du Plessis earlier on this year.
How fun of a fight that was.
That fight fell out. So Curtis touched on it at the media day. He was talking to John Morgan. He said, I broke 2 bones in my wrist, but I didn't really break my wrist. And the doctor told me to take a couple of weeks off. So what did I do, Matt? What did I do? He went right back into the gym the next day. And it's been aching, it's been paining, but he's been working his striking. And look at that. Memoji Sports 21 hitting up a big super chat. Here's to the Pop and Popcorn. 31-7 this month. Still can't believe I hit on Yuri and Holland to win by sub. Appreciate you guys.
I had a lot of people hit me up when Kevin Holland win by sub.
Yeah, there were so many people out there on Instagram in particular really hitting up the channel talking about that one. The Kevin Holland win by submission. That was kind of wild.
I tried to tell you guys, he can't grapple at 185 against Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson. That doesn't mean anything. That's like 98% of the people walking the face of the earth. So he's going to be able to grapple a lot of guys at 170. I think he proved that.
So, Matt, when it comes down to this one, Vieira, the cardio escaped him. He went too hard against Fluffy Hernandez last time out. Paced himself against Dustin Steitzfuss. And he was throwing a popping jab out there. Like, it was really good. He won a bonus for that fight. For Chris Curtis, he's been knocking guys dead. Obviously, defensive wrestling's pretty good for Curtis. His striking's better than Rodolfo Vieira's. But my favorite thing, Matt, and this is where I want to hand it off to you. At the media day, Chris Curtis goes, guys, I know what I'm good at. You think I'm going to even entertain grappling with Rodolfo once? No, I'm going to get out of there, and I'm going to mix in my striking again. So I love it. A guy that's smart enough to know what he's good at.
Because if I saw like a fight week picture of him with Jamal Hill, I would put the house on Rodolfo Vieira.
No more whammies. So that is kind of funny. But Matt, again, I had Chris Curtis at the start of the week because it pains me. Like, I'm a Rodolfo guy. But Rodolfo on the scale yesterday, what the hell is he doing? Is he getting ready for like a bodybuilding competition? He was the most burnt orange you've seen, like a car from 2004. Like when that burnt orange was the biggest color ever. So for me, I've got Chris Curtis in this matchup. It is very volatile. This might be like my low-key favorite fight of the weekend, but I do have Curtis here.
Rodolfo Vieira hates getting hit. And that's the massive X factor to this fight. Again, if he takes damage in the first, let's say 45 seconds, a minute and a half, let's say, he's going to fight like a much different version of himself right after that. He's going to go for panic takedowns. He's going to realize, hey, I can't play around with Chris Curtis on the feet. I always go back to when, and this is much more timely now, especially after he just lost the title. Remember when Shlemenko fought Gegard Mousasi and broke his orbital with the first like punch he threw? Breaks his orbital.
Hey, Shlemenko won that fight.
I know, and you haven't let go of it ever since. But Gegard after that thought, hey, I can't see. I suffered a bad injury. I have to fight like a different fighter. And it worked out for him. He was able to get Shlemenko to the ground, had a lot of back control in that fight, but he fought in a more intelligent manner. The difference is, Gegard Mousasi has, 110 MMA fights? Even up until that point. Like, he was a legend 6 years ago when he had first gone over to Bellator. Rodolfo doesn't have that wealth of experience to fall back on if things do start to go poorly for him. His kind of plan B is, I'm the jiu-jitsu guy. Let's start going for takedowns. The problem is, when you're going for a lot of those high-amplitude takedowns that use a lot of your energy, It's going to be a bad look against Chris Curtis if you're not able to submit him in that first round, second round, because by the time the third round comes around, Chris Curtis is still going to be throwing big power shots, and he is going to be a very similar fighter from round 1 to round 3. This is the only kind of hesitation I have with this fight. Chris Curtis could be a fighter with way more knockout wins, but also way more submission losses, because the way he strikes is a very intelligent manner. He holds his hips back, but his shoulders very forward. It almost looks kind of stiff sometimes. He
like
likes
in that
lead
picture?
hook. Just in any picture, really, like, that is the way he strikes. He likes to have his hips very far back. Now, if he pushed into his shots a little bit more, I'm sure he'd be able to land with a little bit more power, but there's also going to be a flip side to that. There's some positives and some negatives. He would also be a lot easier to take down, and I do like that one aspect of his style. I think that's going to save him a lot in this fight against Rodolfo Vieira. The fact that his hips are very far removed from his opponent, so I think Chris Curtis can start having success early in this fight. It's just going to keep that snowball going down the hill and just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Philip Robinson in the comment section, Vieira by submission is a lock, and I saw just my 2 cents mention it, and I know I mentioned it at the start of the week. The fact that Brendan Allen was able to pop, jump on Chris Curtis's back, and have, like, the body triangle and everything, but not able to get the submission. Like, if Brendan Allen can do it, Rodolfo Vieira can certainly do it, so...
Is Virgil in the comments?
I don't know why.
Greg and Matt?
Greg and Matt, yeah.
That's a shout out. Oh, wow.
Yikes. Vanderlei Silva over there giving me the Greg and Matt. 65% of the fans have Chris Curtis to get the win, 35% with Rodolfo Vieira. And if you look at it for my guy, Rodolfo, he's a slight underdog. So this one is really close. You can get Rodolfo for... Let's see, the average plus 103 and Chris Curtis minus 124. So the odds are very close. Chris saying, I love Greg Allen. Haha, Greg and Matt. I mean, we got to tell them the backstory to this. We were at Speed and Sport Moncton, a great expo of cars and babes. The babe part was awkward. Like, it was weird. A lot of guys in their 50s oohing and on over fully clothed women dressing.
A lot of weird pictures like this.
Or hover hands,
yeah.
like you should
No,
do.
hover hands were not a thing in 2007,
But
Craig.
when we're there, I mean, featured talent main event is, of course... Virgil, you know, Ted DiBiase's manager / sidekick, and
Everybody's got a price, everybody's got to pay, but the $1 Million Man always gets his way.
when it comes down to it, Virgil's signing graphs for us, and I mean, listen, he's charging like $20 a pick, so our dad gives him a 40, not a booze, not a booze or not a bill, but $40. And then Virgil ends up signing Matt, like to Matt or
first
love
he goes,
Virgil.
Andre, my guy, and just writes Andre.
Yeah, he's like, Andre, pound it, man. My name's not Andre. So he writes Andre onto it. Then my dad's like, well, his name's not Andre. He's like, what's his name? Craig. Scratches it out and writes Greg on it. And then kind of does a double scratch and puts Craig on it finally. So, listen, yeah, Virgil, me, not buds. But both of us going with Chris Curtis. We'll move it on into the next one, Matt. Now, Nate Maness is taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. And if I'm not mistaken, this is not slander. Diehard MMA Pod, the man, Clint, over on Twitter, has got Nate Maness to win this fight. Nate Maness could knock out Umar Nurmagomedov if Umar Nurmagomedov overextends himself on a kick and takes too long and watches it land. I am... Like, my brain is wired that that's going to happen in Umar Nurmagomedov's overall career. But I don't see it happening today. And I think Umar wins, which isn't a hot take because Umar is a giant favorite. Chronicle MMA, big super chat. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think the guy who might be the best prospect in MMA is going to win this fight. And I don't think Umar really is in that category because it doesn't really feel like he has the broad kind of fan appeal that you might assume that he does because he hasn't been as active as a lot of people would like him to be.
He missed most of last year with a knee injury.
And it is a shame because I think when we all look at his talent, we understand just how talented of a fighter that he is. And we understand where his potential could be. This could be a guy who's been the top 15 for years and years to come. But this fight against Nate Maness is an important one. But to me, I just see it as a getting back on the horse kind of a fight. If he looks good against Nate Maness, then maybe we can match him up with a slightly more difficult opponent. And then after that fight, maybe we can talk about giving Nurmagomedov some ranked opponents. But between his own kicking ability, with his scrambles, with his own offensive wrestling, like Umar Nurmagomedov is that guy, and he's very, very tough to deal with no matter what range the fight takes place at. So I do really like Nurmagomedov in this fight.
Kenny Williams talking about Virgil being at his lowest. I saw that on Twitter, but Kenny Williams, I'm gonna follow up the story. That was like 15 years ago when we saw Virgil. Like it's been a minute. When it comes to this one, I do have Umar Nurmagomedov when it does come to the fan vote for this fight. 89% at Fight Night Picks going Nurmagomedov. I see a few people out there taking Maness, so you be you. Daniel saying joining in later. They mentioned the QMK parlay. Daniel, I'll mention it. It's next weekend. Thiago Moises taking on Christos Yagos, who showed up looking like a different man. shaved that head, grew a beard. It's like he's been at sea for months. Maybe he'll show up with like the fisherman's friend like attire, or maybe he'll have like the yellow cap and the yellow rain jacket. I doubt it, but you never know. Yagos taking on Moises. Couple of guys chopping it up in southern Florida. You got Yagos now to Sanford MMA, longtime California guy. You've got Thiago Moises that's been at American Top Team since he could walk. Like, he's been there for a very long time. Yes. Matt, we do look at this fight. A lot of people taking Moises in the matchup, but Christos Yagos is a sneaky fighter, especially round 1, round 2. Michael Johnson beat Thiago Moises in the first round of their fight. Michael Johnson got a big fight coming up. Matt, when it comes to this one, I know we both had Moises, but what can we add to this one here?
Christos Yagos is like Jordan Clarkson. You wouldn't want him starting on your favorite team, but if he's coming off the bench, you're pretty happy about it, because for a short burst here and there, he can look like a star. You're like, wow, that takedown, that looked really nice. Some of these combinations, oh my goodness, the striking numbers after that first round. The problem is with Yagos, like a lot of really good bench players, is the more they're on the court, or the more they're in the cage, the more of their weaknesses start to show. And for Yagos, he is a really good starter. He's got crazy output. He's got really good takedowns. He's got great jiu-jitsu. The problem is, every minute that ticks off the clock, he becomes slightly worse at all of those things. And against a guy like Thiago Moises, who really possesses all of the exact same strengths as Yagos, the difference is, he just has a little bit better lasting ability than Yagos. What I'll be very curious about in this fight, though, is, can Moises just get a come-from-behind victory if he is down 2 rounds? Because Yagos is definitely the more volume-oriented striker out of these two. So let's say he throws enough just to be able to win those first 2 rounds. Is Moises a good enough striker to get a knockout in that 3rd round? I'm not really sure, even with Yagos' cardio weaknesses. And Moises is a really good grappler. I don't know if he can go out there and just submit a guy like Christos Yagos, though I know Charles Oliveira has been able to do it, but still, Yagos himself is a very talented grappler, so I think this is a very well-matched fight. I think this is a phenomenal fight, but I do think Moises is just slightly more skilled in a lot of areas between these two guys.
So, I do agree with you, and I mean, I love a Christos Yagos fight. Like, you get excited about them, because somebody might get finished. Or he's taking on Carlton Maness, and he might just wrestle. So a tough ask when it comes to this one, Matt. 85% of the fans going with Thiago Moises, and Chris saying Yagos crashing from the compound V early tonight. Angel saying, or Angel Alonso saying, agreed, Yagos has enough to take this by points. He very well could. And Prince Vegeta-san, how could you be the favorite coming off 2 losses? I'll answer that question. Look at the guys that he lost to. Like, I get it. Joel Alvarez, I kind of hold that one over his head because I'm not that high on Joel Alvarez. Craig Hart ended up the super chat saying Craig's unite against Greg's. It's always fun when you have to say your name twice, right, Craig? It always happens. But for Thiago Moises, lose to Islam Makhachev in that main event slot, lose to Joel Alvarez, and I mean, I almost cursed there, but man, he did not look good in that.
Got lit up.
He didn't look very good in that, like, at all. And I know Joel K1 experience and this and that out of Spain, but that was bad. Thiago Moises is a juice favorite. Minus 253. He opened minus 300, so I guess a little bit better than that. Yagos from plus 250 to plus 208. I mean, I've got the pop and popcorn. Kyle OM saying Moises is probably my most confident pick tonight. I believe he still has top 10 potential. It's one of those Dana White's Contender Series curses, though. You never know what you're going to get. And the only guy that's really ever challenged for a belt from Contender Series is Alex Perez. So
Contender Series, though, challenge for a belt is a pretty high...
No, I know, but it's been, 5 years now?
If that's the threshold, though, to get in, most people aren't going to be, considered anything. I get it. A lot of guys coming off Contender Series, there's some question marks, but still, I don't think Moises is in that category. I think he's a very talented fighter, and by far the best, not by far the best division in the UFC, but arguably the best division in the UFC. I think this is a great fight between these two guys, and honestly, Yagos on points, I don't know what the odds is, but that's obviously kind of how I see him winning if he is able to get the win, but I do like Moises.
We've got Vanderlei Silva apologizing for the mix-up. That's absolutely fine, and I bet in Austria, it is the rarest of names. You walk by an Austrian guy named Craig, they don't exist. They don't.
I've never walked past an Austrian guy and said, is your name Craig? Never once happened in my life.
Coming up on this one, Matt, Josh Parisian, Alain Baudot. Alain is about 3 pounds less than he was his last fight out. Josh Parisian is not, coming in at 265.5. Matt, I think a resounding theme into this week, we're usually super positive about the fight, super positive about both fighters. I mean, we weren't about this fight, and I think it resounded with a lot of people. But guys, Alain Baudot's last win was over 4 years ago against an 0-2 fighter on the Japanese regional scene. He beat Todd Stout by disqualification after getting rear naked choked, but Todd Stout had weed in his system, so Alon gets the win. Then he gets into the UFC because he's Cyril Gahn's teammate of MMA Factory. Josh Parisian lost on the Ultimate Fighter, lost on the regional scene after the Ultimate Fighter, beat guys that he should beat on the regional scene, came into the UFC. He's had 3 fights, he's won 2. And the fight that he won against Rocky Martinez, you could make the strongest argument, like it'd be like the easiest argument, that Rocky Martinez won that fight. So for me, both of these guys don't hold a lot of water. I'm surprised it's a main card fight. Alain Baudot is a way better, way flashier striker, but that's all he has in his arsenal.
It's not sustainable.
Grappling is poor. His clinch control is poor. His game behind that black line around the octagon is poor. His style's better suited to a larger octagon. Josh Parisian, on the other hand, has no striking defense. His clinch control is all right, but if Rocky Martinez is backing you up, holding you up against the cage and landing good ground and pound and bloodying you up in the first round, I have a hard time seeing you beating not even fringe top 15 guys. So again, I'm negative on this one. Dan says I'll take the prop, no distance. Maybe that's the way that you go. Craig Hart saying no bets, LOL. Prince Vegeta-san saying, why is Baudot the favorite? I don't know. This fight is bad. Maybe it ends up in a good finish, but it's bad. I know we were split on the pick at the start of the week, and I thought, geez, am I losing my mind taking out Alain Baudot? But regardless, this fight's bad.
It's not a good one. This should be the opening fight on Bellator, like on YouTube, if we're being completely honest. Like, skill-wise, you know, sometimes we'll say, like, hey, if you stack up their skills next to each other, one guy might be better, but the other guy's more of a specialist, and he can keep the fight in that one area. If you stack these guys' skills up next to each other, like, Nikola Jokic could still jump over it, and he can't jump over a phone book. Like, these aren't 2 of the most skilled guys in the world. The fact that we're describing this fight like that one interview process from Mrs. Doubtfire where that lady's like, I don't do diapers, I don't do cooking, I don't do cleaning. Like, that's how we've been describing these guys' MMA game plans. I have Parisian, but, like, if I'm wrong, I'm not going to be heartbroken about it.
Yeah, again, like, I have Alain Baudot. Ian Campbell saying, why on the main card? Oh, heavyweight. So impressive. Ian Campbell, because they like doing stupid stuff. Like, again, on paper, the UFC went, hey, we have Chase Sherman. Let's keep putting him in these big-time fights. We'll give him a former middleweight. Let's see what happens.
How many people in 2022 are like, hey, I can't wait for that heavyweight fight, and they don't care about the fighters who are actually fighting in it? Like, weight classes don't mean anything. And I know light heavyweight and heavyweight have, like, some of this prestige to them, but, like, they're 2 of the worst weight classes
So
right
we
now.
made this video on Baudot, excuse me, was a slight favorite. I can't believe it.
Calling me out for it.
Minus 115. I'm laughing because I can't believe it. Minus 115, we made the video. Got down as far as a minus 120. From late Friday to now, minus 103. So Josh Parisian has gained a significant amount in the span of a day. He went from a minus 102 to a minus 117. The confidence on Josh Parisian, it's there.
I wouldn't say that's... One person put $5 on Josh Parisian and no one else has put money on this fight. Like, don't put money on this fight, guys. You worked too hard for it.
I've got Alain Baudot because of the one round he had against Rodrigo Nascimento before he got finished, and now it's a no contest because Rodrigo was on the sauce, allegedly. But I have Baudot, you have Parisian, but the fight's not very good. We go to the co-main event, Matt. Neil Magny, Matt. There are so many people tuning in right now, hanging out with the show. Over 650. This is a big-time episode of Fight Night Picks question mark kicks. A like would be appreciated. The super chats have been amazing. You folks have been filling up the chat. Michael Lara saying main card to appeal to fat Americans. Yikes, Michael, spitting the facts. Oh boy. Couple skinny Canadians talking about it. Neil Magny's taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. Of course, this is Shavkat's toughest test so far in the UFC. He has passed all of these tests, like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys would say, with flying carpets. He's looked amazing. He looked great against Carlson Harris, who, like, I was jazzed up for that fight. Now we have this fight. Matt, a lot of people are going with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Neil Magny, hell of a fighter. What does he do well? Kind of everything.
He's a really well-rounded fighter, and that's what makes this fight so fun, because you could honestly make the argument that Shavkat Rakhmonov is a specialist in striking and in grappling. That's genuinely how good he is. We're not just pumping this guy up because we think he might be good at the ranked level. Like, Shavkat Rakhmonov has won every fight he's ever been in. You want to know what's even cooler than that? He's never gone to decision. He finishes everybody. Can he do it on the feet? Yeah, he can. Can he do it on the mat? Yeah, he can. And that's the great thing about Shavkat. It's not like you worry about him having this one massive weakness in his game. And really, if I was worried about any matchup he's had at the UFC level, it was that Prazeres fight. Because I know Michel was a little bit older. He's not really a welterweight. He's one of those weird betweeners where...
So short.
Oh, he missed weight every fight at lightweight, but he's kind of too small for welterweight.
Very small.
I really thought that Shavkat was going to struggle with the wrestling of Prazeres in that fight. I could not have been more wrong in my entire life. Shavkat looked phenomenal, submitted him very early in that fight in the second round, and to submit a guy who's that good at grappling, like, no one knows who Prazeres is, but if you know, you know. Like, he's a really good grappler, and to get a stoppage win over him means a lot to me. I kind of put that win in the same light, and even the Carlson Harris one, as to when Jack Della Maddalena just beat Ramzan Emeev. Like, I know Ramzan might not have the biggest fan base, and he might not be the best fighter in the world, but for a prospect to go out there and finish a guy like that the way he did, that means a lot to me. So, for Shavkat, he's looked amazing on his way up until this level. I'm really curious what the mindset of Neil Magny really is going into this fight, because we have seen him lose to a lot of these upper echelon welterweights. We know he's a top 15 guy. Is he a top 10? Is he a top 5? I think that's a bit of a stretch, but Neil Magny in that 10 to 15 range can offer an interesting fight to pretty much anybody. I just think he does struggle with guys who are specialists. We see it in striking against guys like Lorenz Larkin, against guys like Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think Shavkat can fight in a very similar manner to two of those fighters. The difference is, though, if Neil tries to take Shavkat down, I think Shavkat can threaten with some submissions and try to get back up to his feet with those submissions, whereas a Larkin or a Ponzinibbio, who both beat Magny, they don't even have that one wrinkle to offer if the fight does hit the mat.
IBK just throwing out falsehoods, saying Shavkat always loses on points. He's never lost a fight, my guy. So and he's finished everybody. So what are we doing
it's like
here?
Artur Beterbiev.
86% of the fans at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams going with Shavkat Rakhmonov. The thing that I worry about is Shavkat's one of those guys that can get taken down or did get taken down on the regional scene, and again, get back up again like Chumbawamba. He's able to really, school on you when it's on the feet. He's able to mix in his submissions. His mixed martial arts, they tend to flow. We don't talk about these things about, regional scene fighters, or unless they're on the come up, or some of the fighters buried on the prelims, or somebody that, we're a little skeptical of how they got their due. But when it comes to Shavkat Rakhmonov, all of those things are there. Now again, when it does come to Neil Magny, this guy's so well-rounded, understands his length. He's good in just about every single damn position. And he's only lost to the very, very good fighters. So again, this is a very, very tough test. But for me, I agree. I have Shavkat Rakhmonov. He is a big favorite in this one. Is it justified? We're going to find out. But you're going from Shavkat Rakhmonov finally taking on one of those guys that's very well regarded by a lot of MMA fans. Neil Magny's been to the top of the mountain before. Main evented against Michael Chiesa. He main evented against, wasn't it Santiago Ponzinibbio?
And Santiago. Like, he's been in a lot of high-profile fights throughout his career. And like I was saying about the main event earlier, what I really hope for Shavkat, if he is able to get the win, beating Neil Magny normally means something really good's going to happen to you next. So hopefully if Shavkat is able to get the win over a guy like Magny, there is something big in the future. I know a lot of people, myself included, would love to see that Khamzat Chimaev fight at some point in the future. Gilbert Burns is coming off a loss, but he's still near the top of the division. Like, welterweight has not only great fighters in the division, but some fairly big names too. So it does have the best of both worlds, and I'm just really excited for this division moving forward.
Urban Men of NJ. Neil Magny will shock the world. Stamp it. Shavkat is way overhyped. We'll find out tonight if that's the case. Matt Arman Tsarukyan taking on Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz Gamrot, 6 title fights, plus another 2 that weren't really title fights when he was taking on Norman Park over with KSW. He's an ADCC European champ, multiple-time champ, as recently as 2019, has a wrestling base, and everybody says Arman Tsarukyan's a better grappler wrestler. Well, we're going to find that out tonight, and if you watch the free fight that the UFC threw out there, some of the clips when Arman Tsarukyan took on Joel Alvarez,
oh my god.
I mean, he beat that guy up to 170. Like, Joel Alvarez, get out of the weight class, or never fight again, because that's what's happened for Joel Alvarez. We haven't seen him since. I don't know if he exists anymore.
He lost liters of blood in that. Like, life-changing amounts of blood in that fight. That was so gross, the damage.
Mateusz Gamrot, Guram Kutataladze was able to drop him, and then Mateusz just went Wrestle City, Ankle Pick City against Guram. Was Demir Ismagulov able to have that much success? I didn't think so.
On the feet, oddly enough?
On the feet he did. With the grappling he didn't. So again, what a mystery Guram Kutataladze is to figure out. But when it does come to Mateusz Gamrot, loses that fight, beats the wheels off Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, beats the wheels off Jeremy Stevens, and then his last time out, Matt, did he win that fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he looked pretty damn good. Mateusz Gamrot is on a heater. So both of these guys with great opportunity. And for me, I said it at the start of the week, I don't love the odds where they're at because Arman Tsarukyan is a pretty big favorite, minus 275, open minus 140. Mateusz at a plus 223. We both had Arman Tsarukyan, but man, it is a no bet, pop and popcorn, like hang out, watch this fight because I love this one, man. Like,
I think this is a phenomenal fight between both of these guys. And again, hopefully they both just get more notoriety because they deserve it. These are two of the best fighters in the division. I just don't think Gamrot can have much success grappling with Tsarukyan, and I do think Tsarukyan can have success grappling with Gamrot because this is the difference between these two fighters. Gamrot out-grappled Jeremy Stephens. Cool. A guy who was a 145er near the end of his career. Not really, that fight was dumb to get booked anyways.
He's resurrecting it in PFL.
Yeah, without hair or a beard. But Jeremy Stephens is well past his prime. Whereas Arman Tsarukyan out-grappled Joel Alvarez, a phenomenal grappler, was really competitive with his grappling with a guy like Islam Makhachev. Like,
Davi Hamosh?
And Davi Hamosh.
Like,
from Arman Tsarukyan, I've seen him not only be competitive, but beat good grapplers at grappling. For Gamrot, he's more of I will use your weakness and then exploit it with my own grappling. I think Gamrot's going to play the striker a lot more in this fight because on the ground, even if you're Gamrot, just put yourself in his mindset. I don't know how I'm going to do against Arman Tsarukyan on the mat. I think Gamrot could probably be honest with himself about that. I know I'm a better striker than he is on the feet, though. I have much more power. I may be the more wild striker, but Tsarukyan's not really the type of guy who can, duck your shots, slip, and really make you pay with counters. So I do think Gamrot can have quite a bit of success on the feet. I just think Arman's going to be able to get a takedown at some point throughout this fight. And Arman's in that very rare category to where it's not just control, it's not just position. He makes you pay for being under him. And if he is able to get ground and pound going in the first round, in the second round, just slowly chipping away at the gas tank of Mateusz Gamrot, it's going to make it that much harder to get out from under Tsarukyan in the third round, in the fourth round, in the fifth round. And the one thing that neither one of these guys really carry into this fight is one-punch knockout power. I don't think this fight's going to be over early, if I'm being honest. I do think this fight's going to go 4 or 5 rounds. We'll see the championship rounds at some point. And oddly enough, even though Gamrot has had the experience, I do think this style of fight's going to favor Tsarukyan in those later rounds. I think if he's able to get on top, that is really going to sap some of the energy from Gamrot. And I do think that Tsarukyan, if he's able to have success early, he's just going to keep that momentum going late. Now, the flip side of that is, if Gamrot can defend a lot of those takedowns early and force Tsarukyan to become a striker, maybe Gamrot can damage him enough on the feet to really be able to start putting a beating on him in the third, fourth, and fifth round himself. But I just think at some point these guys are going to end up grappling. And up until this point, I've never seen someone offensively grapple Arman Tsarukyan and be able to really damage him at all.
Mateusz Gamrot's fought the way higher level of competition. Obviously, that Islam Makhachev fight. That does weigh on Tsarukyan. It was a fight of the night. Couple judges, 30-27, 129-28. The only man, the first man to do the dirty when it comes to the grappling against Islam Makhachev. There were points where he had his back, or at least
it was genuinely surprising to watch as it was happening, because it was like, oh, Islam going for a takedown, this fight's gonna be over.
The other thing about the killer instinct, I mean, you look at both these guys, stack them up. Mateusz Gamrot has 2 more wins, 12 finishes. Arman Tsarukyan, 18 wins, 12 finishes. It pretty much is what it is. Again, if you just watch highlights, then you're going to see Arman Tsarukyan covered in a pool of blood like he was listening to Slayer and took it to real life when he was taking on Joel Alvarez. But at the same time, I mean, he played peekaboo with Matt Frevola and beat him everywhere and completely out-wrestled him, but didn't finish him. So
I'm 45 minutes notice.
Again, you can make arguments either way, but again, this should be an amazing fight. So the odds do tend to favor Arman Tsarukyan. The fans, 66% of them here at Fight Night Picks on YouTube have Tsarukyan to win. I put polls up all week on this one. 74% have Tsarukyan to win over on the Instagrams. I think this is going to be a hell of a fight. So again, I do slightly favor Arman Tsarukyan in this one. Have we seen him in extended grappling exchanges where he gets tired in the third round? You bet. Have we seen Mateusz Gamrot his last time out against Carlos Diego Ferreira, where there was a lot of scrambling, a lot of wrestling into the second round, where even the commentary, take that with a grain of salt, is going, hey, he's starting to slow down. There's not as much pop on his right hand. And then what does Mateusz do? Get it down to the mat, get his back, throw a knee against his rib, break his rib. CDF goes, nah, I'm out. And then Mateusz goes, nah, not yet. And then he went for that rear naked choke. So again, I do like Arman Tsarukyan on this one, youth being the factor. I like his cardio a little bit more, which seems wild to say. But again, a guy with championship experience against good level competition in Mateusz Gamrot. It's not, like sometimes when underdogs win, I go, man, like, Can you believe Maria Oliveira beat Gloria DePaula? Can you believe how good
A fighter that was 6-5.
Can you believe how good Natalia Silva looked in her UFC debut after years away against Jasmine Jasvizius? Boy, I didn't see that happening. Give her flowers. If Mateusz won against Arman Tsarukyan, I go, okay. Like, oh, yeah, I can believe that.
Weird examples.
This is one of those ones. Sometimes big underdogs, Matt, surprise me. It wouldn't be a surprise if Gamrot won. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more of like at the main event level, not Jasmine Jasnavicius losing and me being very surprised about that.
Recent.
This should be a phenomenal fight between these two fighters. Again, I cannot say that enough. I really hope that the winner of this fight, no matter who it is able to get that top 10 fighter with some name recognition behind too. Because again, the lightweight division, like the featherweight division and the welterweight division, they're not only very skilled, but they have some really big stars in their rankings too. So just hopefully the next could be, like you said, Justin Gaethje. Poirier's been looking for a fight. Like, these are superstars who can also get you close to a title shot. I still have Tsarukyan, but again, phenomenal fight.
Matt, should be an amazing one. As you know, with Fight Night Picks question mark kicks, we'll stack the deck one more time, go through all of the picks once more. We certainly appreciate everybody who's tuning in, everybody who's filled up the chat, even the trolls. And Matt, over 600 tuning in, 220 likes. It takes 1 second. The super chats have been amazing. Malone Hart, Donald E. Guys, I mean, yours are still up there, and I want to make sure I get it right, because the $49.99 from Memoji Sports 21 is still up there too. So give yourselves a round of applause. We certainly do appreciate it. Again, stacking the deck. Demopoulos Frey, close fight. Frey's a big favorite. She's never been a favorite in the UFC, so it's weird. I have Frey, but not the most confident pick.
Frey because of the experience.
Yeah, experience factor. Kelleher, Bautista, love this fight. I have Bautista, but this should be like fireworks the whole time. Malone Hart hits up another super chat saying MVP. Yeah, I'll give you the MVP. I think it's fair.
I think MVP is going to knock out Mike Perry. But yes, Malone, you're definitely the MVP. I'm Mario Bautista.
Cody Durden, JP Bays, going with Cody Durden.
I also have Cody Durden. JP, though, hopefully he can look like the fighter we thought he was going to be before he came to the UFC, though.
I hope so, too. Howling Paiva, Sergey Morozov, going Morozov.
Really fun fight, though, but I do have Morozov.
Shayilan, Nuerdanbieke versus TJ Brown. I've got TJ Brown, but this is weird.
I also have TJ Brown.
Yeah. Carlos Ulberg, Tyfon, Nchukwi, split on the pick. I've got Tyfon, Dodon.
I got Carlos Ulberg.
The Black Jag. How do you end up on that one? Action Man, Rodolfo, Vieira. I've got Action Man.
I also have Chris Curtis.
Action Man. What was it? Turbo Man. No, I don't have the Turbo Man. That was a bad Arnold. Matt, Nate Maness, Umar Nurmagomedov, going with Umar.
I think Umar's probably got this one.
Get to the chopper. See, that one I tried. Thiago Moises, Christos Yagos. I've got Thiago Moises.
Again, another really fun fight, but I also have Moises.
It should be a fun one. We've got Josh Parisian, Alain Baudot. If the last ones were really fun ones, this is something. Like, it's substance. It's quantity over quality.
If there's like a corner store or a pizza that needs to be picked up at some point tonight, I would highly recommend this be the fight to go.
Before the co-main and the main.
Yeah, go accomplish all of those chores during this time and then have a really great co-main and main event.
Alain Baudot.
I have Josh Parisian, though. I should probably mention that.
Yeah, but no confidence either way. Neil Magny, Shavkat Rakhmonov, rocking with the man from Kazakhstan. Both of us going with Shavkat Rakhmonov.
I said before he fought Carlston that, hey, this guy could maybe beat Hamzat Chimaev, and I still feel that way, so I've got him to beat Neil Magny.
Greg gonna get the pizza? Maybe I will. Arman Tsarukyan taking on Mateusz Gamrot. An amazing fight. I've got Arman Tsarukyan, but it pains me. I love KSW.
Oh, I love KSW too. The pride of Poland, kind of.
Yes.
It's a wild time. It's a really fun time. I have Arman Tsarukyan, though. These are two fighters who can offer anyone in the top 15 a really interesting fight, though. So no matter who wins, who loses, hopefully we just get more ranked opponents for both guys because they definitely deserve to be in the rankings. I have Tsarukyan by the slimmest of margins, but this should be a great fight.
Matt, I mean, listen. Christian saying Magny's so often disrespected. Chris saying, to Prince Vegeta's son that your guy, Josh Parisian, lost to Parker Porter. Corey saying Gamrot for the upset. Dominic joining in late. A lot of people tuning in. Having fun next weekend. UFC 276. There's a Fight Night Picks sidekick. So you can join in for the main card here, just like we're doing right now. We can talk about the fights. We can talk about the chat over there because we like to have fun with that. QMK 2 hours before the prelims. But that big card, I mean, it's absolutely stacked top to bottom. Like, you pop out Bobby Green, you add in Donald Cerrone against Jim Miller. Like,
I've
there's
got a
so many
question
good
for you,
fights.
Craig, just because it's fresh in my mind. When was the last time we got a trilogy in MMA where one fighter lost the first two? Because I can only think of one personally.
Like, I'm thinking, was Rampage Vanderlei? Did that go, like...
That's a very good one. I was going to say Cowboy versus Benson Henderson. They had fought twice in WEC and then they fought once in the UFC. It doesn't happen very often, but I'm really excited for the co-main event next weekend. There's not a version of any universe out there where you put Volkanovski and Max Holloway in a cage and I won't get excited for it. They had two phenomenal fights the first two times around. I know Holloway was not able to win either one, but it's going to be a great third fight. I'm really excited.
Should be a great third fight. Be sure to join in for all of that. If you're not subscribed, hit it. The bell notifications, as you know, but then at least you know when that video goes live. Enjoy the fights that are coming up today. A little bit less than an hour before them. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say,
Let's get into it.
Get into it.